Let's go. 3, 2, 1. All right, we have started. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are. Good night, depending on where you are on this lovely globe, this lovely world. My name is Matt Kimball, and I am joined by Paul Smith-Goodson and Will Townsend, the collective brains of Moor Insights and Strategy. And we are here for a special Monday edition of the Data Center Podcast, day before election. I didn't tell you guys what my question is going to be for our getting to know us. Sorry. You're going to have to find out in about 30 minutes.
It's a Monday surprise. It's a Monday
surprise. I meant to tell you and I forgot. Anyway, it's not that hard. So episode 32, we're officially in our 30s. Some interesting facts about the number 32, because I know Paul loves this kind of stuff. 32 can be broken down to 2 to the 4th power plus 4 squared, in case you're playing along at home. Couple of other things. Interesting facts: 32, number of teeth in your head, generally speaking. I guess maybe as we get older, maybe it's less than that. The number of sonatas by Beethoven, interesting as fact, and the number of physical characteristics attributed to the historical Buddha. Kind of a sampling of those, because I know that this is always kind of interesting. Pliant hands and feet, the historical Buddha had. Thighs like a royal stag. Reaching below the knees. Golden hued body. Soft, smooth skin.
Matt, where are you going with this, man?
One more. Area below armpits well filled. I'm going to leave it at that. That is the last physical characteristic contributed.
Okay.
So there are 32 of those. You can look it up if you're interested.
Any more, I think I'd be nauseated. So
yeah.
Either that or never mind. All right, so let's move on. We got a lot to talk about today. Juniper, AMD and Intel earnings, IBM, Cisco, Oracle, and Google. It seems like we talk about all of these companies pretty frequently, but that's all right. And I think we're going to start with our dear friend Will with a less than interesting, slightly interesting, I'll give it 6 out of 10 headline with Juniper's mining for GenAI gold. Sorry, I'm only 6 out of 10.
Matt, you forgot to make the disclaimer.
Let's hear it. What's the? Oh shoot, you're right. You want to do it?
Let me give it a shot. So for our audience, our viewers, our listeners, this is for entertainment purposes only. Do not use this for any stock purchase advice. If you do, you're a fool. So with that,
hold on. One addition to that, one addendum. And if you find this entertaining, you're equally a fool, nonetheless.
Yeah. But please rate, like, and subscribe to the podcast.
Rate, like, subscribe. Boom. All right.
If you don't
covering that. If you don't like it, you should like it.
Exactly. If you don't find it entertaining. Let's go. Let's jump into what Juniper is doing on the mining.
Let's just jump into it. It is earnings season. You mentioned, Matt, like we talk about there's a magnificent 7, 20, whatever companies out there. But I want to talk about Juniper Networks. And they posted their 3Q earnings. And, in the past, I was sort of critical of Juniper. They were very overly rotated on service provider. They were just sort of hitting the ceiling at their $5 billion top line revenue mark. But things have certainly changed over the years. The company acquired Mist, which was a fantastic acquisition by all measures. And the company, as a result, has been ringing in the cash register when it comes to enterprise networking. So their 3Q 2024 above analyst expectations. Rami Rahim, the CEO, talked about how the company is covering both front end and back end networking. These are terms that you're going to hear more and more as companies push in to the AI infrastructure stack. And you need that back end and front end, networking from a scalability perspective and a performance perspective. So by all measures, it's looking like Antonio Neri was a genius when the company announced that they were intending to acquire Juniper. Patrick Moorhead and I got to spend time with Antonio and Rami when that news broke. And hey, there hasn't been an official announcement yet, but approval is likely. And so from my perspective, this just provides a lot of great tailwind once the acquisition does close. That will imbue the combined organization, I believe, with engineering resources that are going to rival that of its nearest competitor, Cisco, and give it an opportunity to really compete and provide the entire AI infrastructure stack that includes networking, but also, Matt, your areas of compute and storage. So I don't know if you guys caught the earnings announcement, but what do you think?
Do you want to jump in first, Paul, or? Oh, I think you might be on mute, my friend.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So I did not get a deeper look at their earnings, but you're right. Juniper is really interesting to me because you're right. They were able to establish themselves in a market that was dominated by one company and one company only, right? And they were still able to, you talk about not being high on them because, they focus so heavily on service providers. That's because that's where the opportunity was for them.
Sure.
And I think to what you're saying with this combination around HPE and what HPE brings around the GenAI experience, their private cloud for AI, there is a whole lot of opportunity for Juniper to further establish itself in the enterprise, and that opens up all kinds of doors, right? So you get in on the AI front, and then you look for adjacent opportunities once you kind of land, right? It's a whole land and expand, and they can leverage the Aruba relationships within the enterprise as well. But they are an impressive company, and full disclosure, they acquired a startup that I worked at some time ago. So I should probably make that known to the audience. So yeah, that's my quick 2 cents.
One thing that I was amazed at, the merger is supposed to achieve operating efficiencies of a run rate of annual cost synergies of about $450 million within 3 years. So that's a good chunk of change.
Yeah, super impressive.
Yeah. I'd like to be in that bonus pool. Won't be though. So Will, what do you think? When you look kind of post acquisition close, assuming it's going to happen, which we think it will, say 6 months out, do you see a Juniper IP kind of being infused across the HPE kind of portfolio from Aruba to GreenLake, across the board, or you talk about front end and back end and everything they're doing?
Yeah, I think you are going to see some integration. There's going to have to be some product portfolio rationalization as well, because there is a little bit of overlap. But I think what's really compelling from my perspective is the combination of the engineering organizations and the scale that can bring. And then when you look at the strengths of each company, I mean, certainly Juniper through Mist and Apstra is bringing, very, very deep AI native, capabilities to the networking stack. Apstra brings intent-based networking design and deployment capabilities. Also, we were talking about service provider. Juniper has been very, strong historically in service provider. HPE, on the other hand, they did have a CTG group that was focused a lot on the software layer from an OSS and BSS perspective. They have since divested those assets, and they're very HPE now is very, very focused on providing private 5G networking. It's an end-to-end solution that includes another acquisition in Athonet, as well as its own radios, which are likely, I don't have this detail, likely white labeled initially, but they do have plans to develop their own radios over time. So I think, bringing those two companies together, and when you look at also the channel presence that these companies have, it's formidable. So I think you will. That's a long way to answer your question, but I think you will see integration of the various technologies. There'll be some product roadmap rationalization, but I do really believe that the combination of the two companies could potentially be greater than the sum of the parts. So, but it'll be interesting to see what happens down the road.
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's a lot of opportunity to leverage what Juniper has done and stand up. When I look at their consumption-based offerings, GreenLake, and then everything on GreenLake and the hybrid cloud and the connected hybrid cloud, it just feels like there is so much opportunity there for HPE to truly kind of differentiate itself in a market where it's typically hard to differentiate yourself. So
for sure.
Anyway, all right. Okay, we could talk about Juniper all day long. Let's move on to earnings. I don't know why I'm singing that. I didn't realize that was a second, but I am. All right, so what to make of semiconductor earnings? I'm going to rate this headline as a 4 out of 10, and it's mine. So, Will, while I might have been hard on you, I'm hard on myself.
Okay.
So I wanted to hit on last week, both AMD and Intel announced their third quarter earnings. And it kind of was a tale of two cities, the market responded in an interesting way. So I'm going to give you the numbers, kind of run it by the numbers first. And if I'm looking down, I had to write this down because there's quite a bit. AMD reported out $6.8 billion for the quarter, up 18% year over year. Gross profit of $3.4 billion, up 24%. Operating margin of 50%. You could do the math yourself, up 3%. Segment-wise, data center, $3.55 billion, up 122% year over year. The operating income was $1 billion, up 240% year over year.
Wow.
And then client was up 29% at $1.8 billion. And operating income was up 97% at $276 million. Gaming was down, embedded was down. There are some factors in there that kind of contribute to that make those numbers look a little bit bigger maybe than they otherwise would, but still very, very, very strong numbers. Intel. Oh, and by the way, they guided very cautiously through the end of the year, like everybody else seems to be. Intel, on the other hand, its quarter was $13.3 billion, down 6% year over year. So down a little bit. Gross margins 18%, considerably lower than what AMD's were. That's down 27.8%, so 28% year over year. Data center was $3.3 billion. That was up slightly, but it's been kind of on a downward trend. And 10.4% operating margin compared with 50% or 30% for AMD at the data center level. That was down slightly. Client 7.3% and 37% operating margins, which equates to about 2.8 billion in revenue. And that was up slightly and down slightly, respectively. So, and they guided cautiously as well. I say all that on AMD's earnings when they finished quickly within a couple of hours, they were down. Their stock price was down 10%. Intel's was up about 5%. It's the tale of two cities, right? And it's all about setting expectations, I think. I think AMD has been so hot on the AI front and promoting Instinct and promoting, what it's going to do relative to NVIDIA and eating into NVIDIA's stronghold or stranglehold on the market, that I think the market investors were a little bit disappointed to hear that their AI number was not going to be stronger than it is. Intel, on the other hand, has been cautiously guiding the market as it restructures. By the way, Intel took a huge hit. I think it was like $10 billion in restructuring cost.
Yeah.
And there's more money in there. They let go, and I think they cut headcount by about 15,000 folks. Really big numbers that eat into what their numbers actually were, like how strong those numbers actually would have been. So, that all gets baked in, and the market, I think, is rewarding them for executing a turnaround, right? They've been turning around for a few years now. They're toward the end of that turnaround and should be accelerating out. And I think the market is expecting that, and that's why they weren't punished as much. But it's incredible to me that you as a company can demonstrate, say for instance, in your high margin business area like data center, 122% growth in revenue, a 240% growth in operating income,
and drop 10%. That's crazy. Yeah.
It's
the bubble bears, man, the Wall Street bubble bears, I still don't think the financial analyst community understands the true potential of what AI is going to bring.
Yeah, I think it's that, and I think they have inflated expectations. So aligned to what you're saying, they have inflated expectations as to what they think they're going to hear from some of these companies, and when they don't, it's almost like, strangely, like a collective emotional reaction to what they're hearing. Right? Oh, you're not going to experience 50% growth in your instinct business, your GPU business. Well, therefore, we're gonna punish you. Overall, strong numbers from both companies, really. And you can look at Intel's numbers as I read them out and go, well, they're down, down, down. But they really have executed their turnaround pretty well. When you look at the 5 nodes in 4 years, you look at where Xeon 6 is relative to where Xeon 5th generation Xeon was, and where it is relative to AMD. They're well positioned, and 25 and 26 are going to be super strong for them. So, and then AMD is just hitting on all cylinders. So, but it's interesting. You got to have to move beyond that one trick pony. You can't just. I think the other side is, the market gets kind of bored too. When all you do is say we have more cores and we're a little bit more higher performing, the market starts to get a little bit bored by that and looks for something, right? So anyway, any thoughts?
They're supposed to have their layoffs and everything done by the end of this year, I think. 15,000.
Yeah, with Intel, yeah. It's sad to watch. If you're on LinkedIn at all, and you've been in the industry for any amount of time, it's like every day there are a couple of different, pictures of the badge with leaving Intel after 20 years, after 30 years, after 15 years. It's just sad to see what's going on, but it's necessary. The company got so big over time that, I think there was, bloat is the wrong word, but I think they certainly were over-resourced for quite some time, like a lot of companies have been. And they're normalizing, or they're rationalizing the workforce.
They're saying they're going to generate $1 billion in savings in non-variable sales by next year.
Yeah.
Another huge number.
Yeah. So it'll be fun to watch, but I think both companies are well positioned. It's going to be fun to watch them kind of move forward and see what they can do to compete with NVIDIA, who is literally the 800-pound gorilla. Maybe not literally, but maybe it's literally like 3 trillion pound. Anyway, moving on. Here we go. We're moving into. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10 because of Granite 3.0 rocks. I get it. Granite rocks. That's fantastic. Because it's higher on the scale, I'm going to attribute this one to Mr. Paul Smith Goodson. Paul, what do you got to say on Granite 3?
Yeah, thanks. IBM is committed to enhancing its models, and they released a Granite 3.0 model. They've got a couple of them. They've got a Granite 2 billion instruct model and an 8 billion. And they're basically built for handling enterprise tasks, focusing on like instructions and following capabilities and that type of thing. And when you compare them to the benchmarks, these are of course open source, and you compare them to the benchmarks on Hugging Face on the leaderboard, they compare very well with Llama and Mistral models. the 3.08b model has a very good performance in cybersecurity benchmark. I looked at some of the benchmarks on that, and it does very well, which is important for that. They've got updates planned for the end of this year. They're going to expand the broader use of applications. And they've got some different things planned for it for next year too. These have got a different architecture than the previous models. The previous models had a dense transformer architecture, and these have got a mixture of experts. They're smaller and more efficient. The mixture of experts basically kind of segments the model into different experts and what each segment can do, and it's a little bit more efficient that way. The dense transformers are like the existing ones, like one size fits all, and it handles about everything. So there's also a Granite Guardian that they came out. It acts like a guardrail for the inputs and outputs of the other Granite models. It watches for obscene things, and it watches for bad outputs and bad inputs too. So
yeah, I caught that announcement, Paul, and actually when I was in Hawaii with Qualcomm. Sorry to brag, guys. And I posted some insights on my X feed, but yeah, I mean, I think the security stuff that IBM is focused on is really, really impactful.
Yeah, that's an important issue. Yeah. So.
Paul, a couple of questions for you. You mentioned Mistral. Does Granite? One of the things Mistral is known for is its broad language support. Do you know in Granite 3.0 if there's a kind of comparable?
Yeah, you've got very good language support. Yeah.
Okay, that's part one. Part two, you mentioned mixture of experts. Are there specific kind of experts that have kind of been focused on, or industries that have been focused on?
Well, like I said, the transformer architecture is basically, like a one size fits all approaches to processing data and that type of thing. So a mixture of experts is more of a nuanced architecture, and it's probably more efficient than the others. It's got different parts of the model that specialize in different aspects of data or different tasks, so it performs really well.
Got it. One other thing, I was up at Red Hat last week, and they were talking about the indemnity kind of guarantees that IBM's built around Granite 3.0, and kind of it's tied to the guardrails, I believe. I think it's important to call out for folks that indemnity applies to what exists in the model as an output. So if you take a model and you tune it with your data, which has some really bad or offensive stuff or incorrect stuff in there, and that ends up coming in the output, IBM does not indemnify you from you supplying their models with bad data. I don't think that was necessarily clear. There was a lot of confusion up at Red Hat around what are the, where do you indemnify, where do you not indemnify?
Yeah, and I think it has to be used in Watson also.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Anyway, these are part of IBM's broader push into enterprise AI solutions. So they're going to be doing more improvements on these models next year. So I think it helps IBM's positioning and provide scalar and secure and high performance AI for businesses, and also open source and some of the other models that have got restrictions on how the Apache license is applied. So these are very, very flexible.
I'm curious to see how this lands in the enterprise. It's IBM's kind of interesting, right? Because They're in virtually. I mean, they're in a lot of companies. They're huge in financial services.
Yeah.
Depending on the technology you look at, right? But when you look at not just the frontier models, but the LLMs and the small language models that are kind of making their way into the enterprise, they tend to be from newer, more emerging kind of technology companies or AI focused companies that it's a perception, right? It's how the enterprise sees IBM versus how IBM sees
It's
other companies, right? How the enterprise sees it. And I'm kind of curious to see if, with Granite, if, IBM can kind of, and I'm sure they have great technology, but it's like how they're going to be viewed relative to a Mistral, relative to a Hugging Face, relative to, some of these other suppliers of models.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they've got such a wide range of products. I mean, my dad was a data processing manager for a military data processing shop. I mean, that was a long time ago. No.
And you just hit it, right? I remember IBM from, when I was younger. But the generation of IT folks and AI folks and data scientists coming in are younger and are a different, they look at the world differently. And yeah, anyway, it's going to be fun to watch. I didn't take that off into the wild. But anyway, let's move on before I get in trouble. Okay, so open the Cisco. Yeah, that's.
You don't like this one?
I'm gonna give you an 8 because there's a lot in there, and
yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a 9 on that one.
Yeah, I mean, come on. I think I hit the mark on this one. So
it's pretty.
It's funny. So for our viewers and listeners,
this is like
an employee with our firm, when she was reviewing the show notes here, she had to follow up with me to say, "Hey, Will, did you mean to insert Hal at the end?" Obviously, a lot younger than the three of us, and
generational gap. Yeah,
we love you, McKenna, but yeah. So I mean, I love science fiction, so I had to go there. But hey, Cisco held its partner summit last week while I was having fun in Riga, Latvia. Patrick Moorhead was there. He was doing some 6.5 video work there. But there were a couple of announcements, one around a new partner program. But this is related to Cisco's attempt, and it'll probably be successful, to provide plug-and-play AI solutions to accelerate the adoption of AI. And so what they're doing with pods, and oh, by the way, Matt, there was some new compute stuff announced. I'm sure you'll talk about that. Yep. There was a networking switch. But what they announced with this pod is, I've got my notes here. So the AI pods are infrastructure stacks tailored for specific AI use cases and industries. So it's sort of a blueprint, a validated design, if you want to call it that. It involves compute, networking, storage, and cloud management. And there are, again, validated designs, Cisco validated designs, CVDs. And the pods are intended to provide customers with an established starting point so that they can easily either begin or continue with their AI journey. So this isn't anything that's novel or new, but I do like the approach. Mm-hmm. And I think also the opportunity, and by the way, this includes NVIDIA, no surprise. Yeah. But I do believe that taking this approach is going to be very beneficial, especially when you look at Cisco's go-to-market selling motion, which is 99.9% through the IT channel. And so you've got to make it easy for channel partners to position, market, sell, deploy. And I think Cisco can hit the mark with this. So what do you think, Matt?
I love the idea of what they're doing. It kind of, in some ways, it harkens back to when they, what was the name of that company they spun out? It wasn't Cube, but when they went after the virtualization space with EMC and VMware and created a bespoke solution, all up appliance, plug and play, attach. It's where kind of UCS really kind of cut its teeth. And deploy it. It's kind of the plug it in, assign an IP address, and away you go kind of simplicity. It kind of harkens back to those times for me. I like what they're doing. I think they have long under positioned, under messaged their compute strength and the strength of the integrated compute networking storage platform with UCS.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful solution. And sometimes I think in the past, maybe it was a little bit of overkill. It's like a solution looking for a problem because it was just, it was that rich. I think it found its killer app, if you will, with AI. And it's going to be fun to see, you're right. It's a very easy channel driven kind of part and an approach. It should find kind of quick movement through the channel. It should be a much easier sell. I hope they have the patience to let these programs kind of like take hold and really take off because there is a lot of potential. And this could open up the door from my perspective, for a lot of other kind of applications around the compute platforms. For the new compute platform you're talking about, and is it the 885A? Is it? AMD based with NVIDIA H100, H200. Yeah, the C.
Dude, give that man a prize. I can't believe you remembered that numbering and nomenclature. You nailed it.
That's how I roll, man. That's how I roll. But yeah, it's slick, and it is exactly what enterprise IT is looking for. Give me a frictionless AI experience. That's exactly what this is designed to do. It's easy like you said, easy for the channel to move. It's going to be fun to watch. Paul, I didn't know if you want to add in. I could keep going on, but.
No. Did you mention that the pods work with the major AI frameworks?
Yeah, so NVIDIA Enterprise was mentioned in the press release as well, which is no surprise. And actually, if you think about it, like Matt, when you and I were at Discover, HPE sort of announced, sort of a similar kind of. I remember, like from a compute perspective, it reminded me of T-shirts: small, medium, large, extra large, right?
Yep.
And integrating the NVIDIA Enterprise, platform into the mix as well.
Yeah, part of the key there is, and I think this is way under appreciated by the market, is everyone gets so caught up in how cool NVIDIA's GPUs are, and they forget that NVIDIA has really a full AI stack, right? From GPUs to the CPU to NICs. Let's not forget that Mellanox kind of acquisition, to the software stack with NIM. I mean, there's so much that NVIDIA does. And
DPUs as well with Bluefield, right?
Yep.
Bluefield 3. Yeah.
And it's just like they have the complete portfolio, and it truly is like I like the term AI factory that I think Dell coined it initially, but everyone's starting to use. But it truly is, and it makes it easier for partners like Cisco to work with them, because it's like, what are all the things I need for that that AI data pipeline, and then kind of training and then operationalizing through inference, right? They've got it all built into the NVIDIA AI factory. So yeah. Anyway, very cool. Very cool. I'm not doing great on transitions today, guys. I'm sorry. Usually I can go right in from one to the other.
You give a case of the Mondays, Matt?
You know what it is? I'm going to be honest. I started swimming again today. It's my first day back in the pool in like 2 months, and my head's all foggy. Swimming's weird. It's a weird workout.
It is.
Yeah. So
I know it firsthand doing triathlon in my 40s, and I need to like do more than just sit in my new pool. I need to actually do some laps. So you're giving me some inspiration to actually exercise in my pool.
Thanks. Paul, were you going to say something? I saw you flapping your hand around there, but you're on mute.
Oh, I said just turn your head to the side and tap it, and Still caught up.
Yeah.
Well, it's less that. It's the amount of how sore my arms are from those floaties being on them, you know? So that's the most difficult part. Anyway. All right. Next one. I'm giving this one a 1 out of 10 for creativity.
Let me ask you one thing before you go on.
That's a boring one.
Do you leave the floaties on when you put your shirt on so it look like you're buff?
Dude. That's only the beginning. Yes. The answer.
Good look. That's a good look, Kimball.
Thank you. My wife told me to fill them with sand, that it would help me get stronger. Oh, that doesn't sound right. Anyway, OCI's unique path to growth. So this is a little bit older, but I wanted to hit on it because I want to call out Oracle on this for what they're doing. So OCI is Oracle's cloud infrastructure. It's their version of Azure, AWS, GCP. For those that don't know, when they initially launched it many years ago, it really didn't take off well because, quite frankly, it wasn't well thought. Back in, I think it was like 2018, 2019, they kind of reset it and kind of built a cloud native infrastructure and built it up from the ground up. And it is a highly performant, highly secure cloud that offers all of the services that you would expect from any of the major cloud providers. I say all that because you think, okay, well, Oracle, OCI, obviously database, and that's why customers are going to go there, right? But they have all this other stuff, and they're finding success in kind of providing through HeatWave for database services or their exascale database service in the cloud, and database 23 AI. Lots of good stuff they're doing in the cloud, but something else they're doing, which is wholly unique and kind of unheard of until they started kind of down this path, was they're effectively becoming an OEM for other cloud providers. And there are a couple of examples of this. So one of them is, Oracle databases, it's virtually in every Fortune 500 company out there, probably every Fortune 1000 company out there. I used it a bunch when I was in IT. And companies have become reliant on it, much like, a lot of kind of traditional infrastructure. It's what drives a lot of businesses. So if you are an enterprise using Azure, if you're an enterprise using AWS, an enterprise using Google, chances are you have some flavor of Oracle in your data center. So what Oracle said was, hey, wait a minute. Rather than force customers into choosing between OCI and Azure or OCI and AWS, how about we deploy our database service within their cloud? And I don't mean like it sits like a third-party service. I mean, let's take a slice of Oracle Cloud from hardware to the database to the networking, and let's deploy it in these cloud data centers. So it's a cloud within a cloud, so that we can provide native level services to customers of Oracle that might be using Azure or might be using AWS. And so today, you've got Oracle database at Azure, Oracle database at AWS, at Google, as native services running on Oracle infrastructure, but tightly integrated into those clouds. Part one, right? It's been a huge success. Part one. Part two, they've built high-speed interconnects, secure interconnects between third-party clouds and OCI, so that, number one, if you have apps that are running in both clouds, you can move data back and forth really quickly, really securely, like native wire speed, and you can do it without egress and ingress fees. Really great, right? But that also enables, in the instance of, say, Azure, if you're training an OpenAI model, a ChatGPT model, and you run out of capacity within your data center, or you're running some model and you're running out of capacity, you can burst into OCI's data center. So you're using some of OCI's infrastructure to fill the needs of Azure customers. Part two. Part three, is this thing called Oracle or OCI Alloy. And essentially it's an OEM cloud. So, and this is real world. They just signed an agreement with NTT Data, I know who you work quite a bit with.
Yeah.
NTT Data is a cloud. They're a cloud in Japan. Well, they're a global cloud provider, and they're a huge consulting organization. And they provide cloud services to the Japanese government. And they found that they were running out of capacity to support these agencies, these government agencies, the way they should be, or the way they wanted to. So they contracted with Oracle. They're using Oracle Alloy, which is Oracle's cloud service. It's the Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. They're using that. They're labeling it with NTT, and they're providing sovereign cloud services to Japanese government agencies and Japanese customers. And they're going to expand that into other countries. So through all of this, you see OCI growing at double and triple digit numbers quarter over quarter. It's because of stuff like this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I love what they're doing because they realized, look, if we just do what AWS does, if we just do what Azure does, if we just do what GCP does, we're going to see, right? Yeah, we'll get database customers, but we're not going to get a lot more business otherwise.
Right.
So they're finding ways to leverage those cloud services to expand their footprint more and more. And over time, that will feed into being able to compete on the other side as well, which, I mean, they are competing, but, compete more effectively. So I love what they're doing. It's unique. It's different. I call them the OEM cloud because of what they're doing. But I got to give them a shout out because it's so very different from what everybody else has done. So
I love the whole white label approach, Alloy. I wasn't familiar with what they were doing there with NTT. I think that's brilliant. And to your point, it's sort of like, because they're somewhat late to the party relative to the big three, mm-hmm. to go head to head with them would not make sense. It would not be margin accretive. It'd be margin decretive. Yep. And so I really like that. The other thing that, I saw OCI doing, and this was, a couple of years ago, was that, they were focusing on telco, right? And hey, look at Azure. I mean, Azure is all but sort of abandoned that segment. You could argue that Google has sort of de-emphasized that with an executive, Kevin Schatzkammer, leaving.
Yep.
And so I think that's another opportunity for them, with Azure and GCP sort of exiting. You don't hear a whole lot about AWS and what they're doing with private 5G and telco. I mean, telco is a tough market right now for obvious reasons. Yeah. But hey, maybe OCI should also sort of revisit what they're doing with telco and maybe take a different approach, like they've done with Alloy, to kind of carve themselves a niche out where they can continue to drive that growth and that scale.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe they will. Maybe they'll be listening to this, so maybe that makes it onto their strategy discussions.
We call that advising from afar here at Moor Insights and Strategy, don't we?
We do. What do you think, Paul? Any thoughts? Or
yeah, I think I wasn't aware of it until you started talking about. By the way, that was a good explanation.
Yeah.
But the platform's potential to transform a regional and industry-specific cloud makes it really a nice development in cloud computing, I think.
It really does. And, it's funny because with sovereign cloud in particular, a lot of the cloud service providers have talked about this and have also talked about the, on-prem version of their cloud. AWS had, I can't even remember these, Outpost, and Azure has Azure Stack, which is more kind of OEM-ish. And then Google had, I forget what theirs was called. It was named after a Greek god. But so everybody had their version, but Oracle really kind of took it seriously and did the, Oracle OCI at customer, database at customer kind of approach and the sovereign cloud approach. And it has paid dividends. Again, it's just, I love the different way of thinking in approaching them. I always admire when customers reinvent themselves like that. Microsoft Azure was the reinvention of what Microsoft was, kind of losing in the data center, right? I mean, it's like, I just love these reinventions. But anyway, again, could talk forever. Hats off to you, Oracle, Steve Zavanek and company, and Leo Leung. So anyway, all right. Last but not least is, I don't know how I'm going to grade this one. Dry watermarks. I'm going to give it a 7, Paul, and I'll tell you why. Because it's creative, but I'm not really sure where you're going with this.
It's confusing.
I'm not either. I was hoping maybe the name would give me an idea.
It's creative and confusing at the same time, but I'm sure Paul.
It's abstract art. I love it.
That was the objective. Yeah. Anyway, Google has come up with a way to watermark text, and it's pretty innovative. It's called Synth ID text, and it was developed by Google DeepMind, so you know it's complicated. It's just recently published in Nature last week, I think. But it's the first large-scale deployment of AI text watermarking. There's been a couple other tries at trying to do this. It was Google tested it using 20 million Gemini large language model responses. So I think people were they tested on the output, and people didn't realize it was being tested. But it addresses a lot of the concerns that floating around now. Fake news, you need to tell if it's fake or if it's real. Training data is contaminated with AI-generated content instead of real content that humans have made. But this is the first, real implementation at scale. And according to Google, there's no quality degradation in the text that's been watermarked. So it uses a sampling algorithm that's separate from the LLM. It uses a cryptographic key type system. I don't know the particulars of it, but it modifies the word selection in a way that you can't tell it's been modified. And so it's pretty clever. Like I said, there's no impact on the generation speed. It's supposed to be easier to detect than other methods. And it takes, I think it takes like over 200 tokens for it to be implemented on text.
So Paul, let me make sure I get this right. So if I go to Gemini and I ask it to write a paragraph on why puppies are beautiful, it will watermark that it was a Gemini generated.
No, that was only during a test when they were developing it. So
okay.
You would have to buy the product and run it on your machine and have the output that way.
Okay.
It's going to require, industry-wide adoption for it to be effective. It's going to be a short-lived application, I think, because it's not anything you develop in this type of arena. People are going to figure out how to erase it or how to set it back to normal. So one of the OpenAI guys said it was, I forgot exactly how to put it, but he said it's like a whack-a-mole solution. Somebody's going to figure out how to set it back to normal. So.
Yeah. So the cynic in me says you could have all the watermarks you wanted all over any content, and people are still going to believe what they want to believe.
Yeah.
Right.
The big thing is that Google is the first player to implement watermarking at scale. So, that's going to set a precedent, I think. So,
I love it.
hey,
Go ahead, Paul. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was going to transition but if you have more to say, I didn't want to transition off yet.
But I'll just end with the effectiveness of any type of technology like this is going to depend on industry-wide adoption and coordination. I mean, this is a step forward, but it's not a complete solution, I don't think.
Yeah. Right.
So
yeah.
sort of a proof of concept, I guess, right? To demonstrate the ability to do it, but that your whack-a-mole comment is that, it could probably be thwarted, manipulated, hacked. Yeah.
Wow.
But interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Manipulate anything, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And this is the season for it. All right. So moving on, this is not really a top 3 list. This is more of a getting to know us list. I was going to sing that song, Getting to Know You, getting to know all about you. I'm going to kind of build that in.
You should.
Yeah, you sang it and I'll answer it.
I bet we could harmonize like Crosby, Stills, and Nash if we kind of tried to. Do you guys want to give it a shot? No?
No.
All right. All right.
You have never, you heard cats screeching at night?
Yeah. It would not be something that anyone would want to hear.
Oh, you guys, come on. Where's your sense of adventure?
Okay. Although I will tell you, Matt, that when it comes to karaoke, I can sing the shit out of Bon Jovi, Living on a Prayer. Now, if you ask my wife that, who is a singer, she would probably refute that.
But in your mind.
But in my own mind, Bon Jovi.
That's what counts.
So I'm going to take this off the rails for a second. So I grew up with a guy who is in a Bon Jovi cover band.
Nice.
Called Living on a Prayer. And it's nice, except he's a couple years older than me, maybe a year older. So he's in his late 50s. At what point do you say, I'm hanging up the leather pants and the long-haired wig or whatever? I don't know, the hair extensions. I don't know. At what point do you stop doing that and stop trying to twirl and kick?
Whatever floats your boat, man.
Whatever floats your boat. Yeah. Paul, are you in a cover band?
No, but I'll tell you when you stop. When you go into the hardware store and you buy a pack of furnace filters, and the girl looks at you that's checked you out and said, "You want me to help you out to the car with this?"
That's a good
It must weigh half a pound,
That's a good sign. I'm not saying that's a lived experience, but that's a good sign. All right, here's a quick one. It's not a top 3. It's real simple. So, we're all on the other side of 30, right? We're all a little bit older and have a little bit of experience. What was your favorite job and why? In all of your experience, it could be when you were a paper boy. It could be something entirely different. But what was your favorite job and why? Who wants to go first?
I got to think about mine for a
Oh,
second.
no.
All right, go, Paul.
When I was 12, I used to sell papers. I sold them in the Airman's Mess Hall. I'd go around to every table, and the guys bought them all the time. I was always sold out. But after I got through selling my papers, I got to go over to the barrack and play pool with them.
Were you a pool hustler at the age of 12?
Just about, yeah. I played a lot of pool.
Where was this? What base was this?
Mount Seneca State. Great Falls, Montana. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good one. I love it. Lots of fun. You made money and you had lots of fun.
Yeah. Oh, the other thing I liked is, do you remember the old coin changers that you put on your belt?
Oh, yeah.
I had one of those and I loved it.
Oh, man. I bet you felt important, huh?
That felt cool. Yeah.
I had one of those as a paper boy, actually. We would, on collection day, we would have to carry those around, those change things.
I wish I could find one today. I'd wear it around the house and make change for the grandkid,
I might try and find one for you.
Yeah.
And I'll even fill it up with some change.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you want to go or you want me to go?
I'll go. So ironically, I used one of those contraptions with the job that I'm going to share with y'all. Ooh. So at the age of 14, I had to actually lie about my age. One summer, my mom was living in Norman, Oklahoma, and stayed the summer with her, and I quickly became bored. And so she actually knew someone that managed the local Sonic in Norman, Oklahoma.
Ooh.
And so I was a car hop at a
Oh,
Sonic in Norman, Oklahoma at 14 years of age. And I got to wear the Sonic red hat and the outfit and all of that. And I got to use one of those little change contraptions to give people their change and serve their food. And what it taught me was an appreciation later in life when I worked retail all through high school and college, that I never ever wanted to be, after I graduated from college, in a customer service related, job, because all of the intoxicated Oklahoma Sooner football fans that would swing in there like at 11 p.m. ordering things like armadillo on the half shell. Yeah. I think it kind of damaged me in my youth.
That's awesome. No roller skates, right?
I did not wear the roller skates. No.
All right. That's a good one, man. I like that.
Yeah.
So mine's a little different. So mine, I was in the Navy for 6 years, and I was on a submarine for 3.5 of those years after schooling. And I think that was my favorite job. Lifelong friends, experiences that I could never explain to somebody, partly because some of them are classified, partly because they're just so wild you wouldn't believe them. Mm-hmm. And really kind of like when you want to learn about camaraderie and kind of responsibility and kind of, we're all in this together, there's nothing better than the airmen that you were working with, Paul, or kind of being part of one of those units. So USF Alabama. Yeah. That's
awesome.
Mine. Yeah. And that's it. All right. So we're done. This was a fun chat. Thanks for carrying the day, guys, because I was a little bit off today. But this was a great conversation. I'm going to throw out there one more time. We'll start it. Do not take anything we say with any bit of seriousness with regards to investing or not investing or betting or not betting. We are here to just kind of give our opinions and thoughts, and they're not design, or they're not professional investment advice in any way. If you happen to invest based on what we tell you, you deserve everything you lose. So there's that. Again, if you like us, please, what did you say? Rate, hit, subscribe.
Rate, and subscribe.
Yeah,
that's what Anshul, my buddy, my 5G partner in crime, says at the end of every one of our 5G podcasts, which, by the way, I will say has just posted. So swing over to my social handles here in a moment, and I'll be sharing those links as well.
There you go. Rate, subscribe. Guys, until next time, y'all have a wonderful week, and thanks for hanging out.
Yeah. Thank you, Matt.
Talk soon.